Not productivity and profit, or profit productivity. Depends on if you're in the podcast or you're catching this video, or maybe on Instagram. I don't know. If that's the case, then what's up Instagram? Here's the thing. I just spent a couple days with world-class service providers, business owners, some of the most brilliant people you ever met. Here's the problem with brilliant people. There is a disconnect between top 1% and top 10% and the rest. Okay, so what that means is, there are still tribes in third world countries that don't boil their water even though they get sick. The reason they don't boil their water is they don't understand microbes, right? So if you don't understand what a microbe is and you have beliefs around what water is, some really smart person, some doctor coming in from a first world country telling you to boil your water doesn't make sense. Okay, in fact, we may look at them, so these idiots not boiling their water, even though they would be better off if they did, given their belief system and their education and their current situation. It actually makes sense for them to not boil their water based on what you're telling them. Okay, so the person making the mistake here is not the person that's not boiling their water. They don't have the base knowledge to understand what a microbe is. Okay. The person making the mistake here is the doctor that is trying to sell the idea of a microbe to somebody who doesn't have the base knowledge to understand it. Right. So if we flip this to marketing and sales, it's the marketer, the salesperson, or the service provider using their base knowledge to try to get somebody that doesn't have the same base knowledge, they don't reason from the same base, to buy their thing. It's actually not logical for those people in that village to boil their water based on what they know, right? So this is why people won't buy your stuff, even if it's obvious that it's good for them. It's obviously better than what they're doing. They will obviously make their money back. They will obviously have a better life. It is not obvious to them. And they may have an aversion to risk that you don't have. They may have a different language. If I try to sell an avatar to a bunch of people, marketers go, oh, cool, you're going to help me with my avatar, my ideal client. Non-marketers are going to think I'm trying to sell them a big blue James Cameron movie alien, right? So people don't buy your stuff, even if it would improve their life, even if the return is obvious to you, because to them, the return is not obvious, the risk is not worth it, or they don't have the same base knowledge and understanding that you have. Right? Really, really important that we have to understand that we're not talking to people and not understanding their belief system, the compatibility of what we're saying with their belief system. So I was just talking to a client real quick on Messenger. She's on here now. Said, how do I know somebody's a good fit? How do I know if I should really push to sell somebody? And the answer is there any chance they will regret giving you money? The response was, well, I don't think anybody should regret it. And that might be true, but it's not should they, will they regret it? If they spend this money, is their husband going to come home and cause all kinds of domestic problems because they spent money? If that's the case, they may regret the purchase, right? Maybe they have a really rough life. They don't really have a lot of time to implement. So even though you could help them, spending the money might be taking food off their kids' table, and they don't have enough time to implement, so they never get the result, in which case they would regret it. So we have to understand there's a logical decision for some people, right? What is logical to some people, I should boil my water so I don't get sick, may not be a logical decision to another set of people who don't understand what the first set understands, okay? So people don't buy your stuff, even if it is obvious they should, because it's obvious to you with your base knowledge, and given their tolerance for risk, given their situation, given their circumstances and fears, it may be more logical for them to not buy, especially the way you're selling it. Now, if you could go into one of these third world countries one of these villages and tell them a story that changed their belief, maybe it would then become logical for them to boil their water, right? So there's a lot of sitting around saying, well, my product is good for everyone, is irresponsible, and it's not always true, right? It's not always true, because they may give you $3,000 and then not be able to pay for their kid's, broken arm. In that case, it's really not logical for them to give you $3,000. The logical thing to do is take care of their family, right? So there's a lot of circumstantial stuff that we have to consider. So what do? Understand where our people are coming from, step one. And step two, we have to make sure the gap is small, meaning a PhD in metabolic chemistry speaking to an uneducated third world, villager. That gap is so wide that they will never make sense to each other. No matter what one person does is 100% logical from where they stand, their knowledge. What another person does is 100% logical from what they know, and they're both going to think each other is completely illogical. Neither one will buy either the other's ideas. Right? So we have to keep a small gap. For a PhD in metabolic chemistry, we might have to distill our language down to speak like normal human, and we can still only speak to people that have a little bit of a scientific based knowledge. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So we can't take our world-changing ideas that we developed in a lab with 12 years of education or 12 years of higher education and bring it to somebody who doesn't have any education at all, or speaks a different language, or has a different set of beliefs, right? That's why people don't buy your stuff. You're either speaking to the wrong audience, or you're speaking to the right audience, but you're not doing the work to understand their underlying belief systems and the base knowledge from which they are reasoning, right? So that's where the work goes. It goes to finding the right people. And the work also comes in understanding the base knowledge they're reasoning from, so that you can meet them there. Otherwise, what is logical to you will never be logical to them. And even though you have a whole bunch of people that you can help, they're not going to let you help them. Okay. So I teach that in the R3 class. There's actually a system. There's actually a very strategic system of communicating. This is who you should get your information from. This is who you should give information to, right? If that gap is too wide, you're not going to understand the people you're getting information from, and the people you're giving information to aren't going to understand you. And you have a whole bunch of people speaking different languages trying to sell each other stuff that they don't understand, right? So there's actually a systematic process of identifying who you are, your base knowledge, where you should get your information from, and who you should speak to. Otherwise, you end up trying to speak to everybody, and most people do not speak the same language. They don't have the same beliefs. Whatever you're selling is not compatible with their circumstance. Hopefully that makes sense. Justin, Shar, Jonathan, Bodie, see you guys on here. You're awesome. I'm out of here. r3class.com if you want to learn the systematic way to figure out where do I get my information from, and who should I be speaking to, so that when you identify people that you can help, you can actually help them because you're speaking the same language.